Well, hello again there, guys. Brian here at 3TR. I'm welcome to another episode of People's Questions, where I answer all the questions that you guys have sent me over the past week. We had a somewhat extensive list, but I was able to kind of bring it down to size and make it a much more shorter list than I think it would have been. There were a number of questions versus series-wise that were sent to me, but as I said several days ago, just wait till the 15th, and I think all of those questions should be answered. So, starting off with the first question coming from Phantom Sidious, he wants to know, who do I think would win? Where do I think Solidus Snake came from? Solidus Snake came from like the same project that Solid and Liquid came from, but instead of just using the recessive genes and the dominant genes to make each individual, Solidus was a mixture of both. So he was a perfect clone of Big Boss, and therefore his aging acceleration was a lot faster than either of theirs. So though he was a perfect clone, he was also a flawed one in that sense. So that's kind of where he came from. He came from the same project. He just, you know, they did for the perfect clone, I don't think they wanted to use a female's body to give birth. Next question comes from Nohan Love. You want to know, Solid Snake versus Batman, who I think would win? Batman would win. As great as Solid Snake is, Batman has dealt with people like him all the time, and he doesn't even have the means to fight him. I mean, what's Solid Snake? Solid Snake's got a bunch of gadgets and guns. Well, Batman's got an even better collection of gadgets, and his fighting skills are significantly superior to Solid Snake in every way. I mean, Solid Snake learned CQB, but Batman has practically mastered every single martial artist known to man, and has mastered so many ways of taking people down. Yeah, Solid Snake doesn't stand a chance. Next question comes from Jeremy Jonas. He wants to know, which incarnation of Kratos do I believe to be combatively more viable? The Greek or Norse? I'm going to go with Greek, simply because I think that in terms of the scale and difficulty of challenges that he had to deal with, I definitely think that Kratos in the past was much, much better. I would say that now that he's older and he needs his son around to even deal with common threats, I don't think he's as combatively viable as he was in the past. But that's no strike against him, because he is getting older. I would say that by God of War 4, he would have to be in his 50s. And so, obviously, his effectiveness as a combatant is going to start to decrease. I'm not saying that he's weak in any sense, but I certainly think that if we were to put, say, Kratos in, say, God of War 4, and you put him up against Kratos when he was well in his prime as a god, I definitely think that the young Kratos would be able to take the Norse Kratos out, no question. Even though the Norse does still also have the Blades of Chaos, but I just don't think he's quite as much of a combatant as he was back in the past. Next question comes from Harshly Critical. He wants to know, are there game adaptations of movies that are even worth it, and which is my favorite and which is the worst? So basically, game versions of movies. The one movie video game that comes to mind that I thought was really, really good, surprisingly, is, if you ever get a chance, I mean, you're going to have to look back, but try to find it or get your hands on X-Men Origins Wolverine. The movie was absolutely trash, but I would say the game was absolutely fantastic. In fact, that game's story was vastly superior to the film. I mean, had they added the story that was in the game, I think we would have had a much more entertaining movie. It wouldn't have made much sense in the context of the timeline, but I think entertainment-wise, it was a much better story than the we had in the films. Next question comes from the Immortal Super Being, and you want to know, which apocalyptic game scenario do you think would be the most horrifying to live through? Zero Dawn, Fallout, Halo, Left 4 Dead, Metro Last Light, Resistance, Fall of Man, or Gears of War? Okay, well, some of these I don't even know, because I've never played them, or I played them but I never finished them. So Gears, gotta take that out. Don't know anything about that. Metro Last Light, don't know anything about that. Left 4 Dead, don't know anything about that. Halo, don't know enough about that. Fallout, don't know enough about that. So it really, for me at least, comes down to Zero Dawn and Resistance. And in that sense, Zero Dawn sounds worse, because once these robots were infesting everything, there was no way to stop them. You could, and I'm surprised you didn't add Mass Effect. That would have been more effective. Yeah, the thing about the Zero Dawn game is that they acknowledged that there was no way to actually stop what was happening. And so the objective was, we need to create a means to rejuvenate the planet, or give it life again, after the planet has already died. So ostensibly, they had to lose first, let these machines die off because they didn't have any more food, and then once they were dormant and asleep or dead, then the Earth could be brought back to life. So if anything, I definitely do think that Zero Dawn would be worse, because you wouldn't live through it. The objective is to make sure that a new generation of humans comes back, not you. You're gonna lose no matter what. So I think that's what probably makes it the worst. Next question comes from Demetrius Pfifer. You want to know, what do I think about EA mocking their fans? Well, I think EA looks very, very stupid now, because with their stupid comments of saying that single-player story linear games are dead, and then after the amazing year of single-player linear games that we've had for 2018, this kind of proves that their method of thinking is heavily flawed. And trust me, gamers do not mind single-player linear games. Just give us a great game that we can actually enjoy and love, and that's all we ask for. And that is a mentality that EA has seemed to have forgotten. And so, yeah, EA looks kind of stupid right now, and I do not think that they're going to have a very great 2019, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling I'm not. Next question comes from Brady Burick, and you want to know, do I think that it is possible for a Force user to master both the light and dark side of the Force without flaw? No, that's impossible. That is impossible. The idea, I mean, and even Gray Jedi, the term Gray Jedi, don't do that. The problem with your question is that the light and dark side are completely opposite, opposing forces. They can't really be used in one person perfectly, because there's a number of abilities that a darksider can do that a lightsider could never do. For example, no matter how much training, no matter how much practice, someone like Master Yoda or even Grandmaster Luke could never use powers like essence transfer. You could never do that. There's certain powers that we associate with the dark side that aren't necessarily pure dark side powers, but there are a number of dark side powers that a lightsider could never use, and then vice versa. And so, no, it's not possible. It just isn't. There's plenty of characters who have tried, and there are lightsiders who have tried to master dark side powers that ended up turning into Sith, and vice versa. There are multiple examples, but as far as I'm concerned, in either Legends continuity or in canon, no one has been able to master both sides of the Force perfectly. It just doesn't work, because each side has flaws. And so the whole point of the Force is you have to choose which pair of flaws do you want. Even the Grand Masters in the Dark Lord of the Siths have their flaws, depending on which side of the Force that they use. So, no. Next question comes from Cassidy Jay Williams. Who wants to know, what are my thoughts on the official announcement of Mortal Kombat 11? I wasn't expecting that. I mean, when I look at how many years have gone by since the last Mortal Kombat game came out, it makes sense. And then when I looked back even further and noticed that even in the last gen systems that we did actually get technically 2 Mortal Kombat games in the forms of Mortal Kombat vs. DC, which a lot of people didn't like, and then Mortal Kombat 9, I guess it does make sense that we could get 2 Mortal Kombats in one generation. So yeah, I was not expecting that. I really thought we would probably get a Mortal Kombat game at the beginning of the next gen systems, but heck, if we're getting a Mortal Kombat in like 3 months, heck, I'm not going to complain. And this kind of goes into the next question, which came from Young Y. You want to know, what do I think Mortal Kombat 11, what we were going to get a great story? I don't know what the story is going to be. It's probably going to be a continuation of Mortal Kombat 10 in some sense, but as far as we know, I don't know what the story is going to be. I know when it comes out, I'll know. And the last question of the episode comes from VBlader1. You want to know, have I enjoyed the Kingdom Hearts series, and what have I played? Yes, I've enjoyed the Kingdom Hearts series, and I've played them all except like a few of the smaller games. Like I've never played the DS one. I didn't play the cell phone one. I think that's about it. But every other Kingdom Hearts game I have played, owned, and bought on numerous consoles. Like I rebought the HD collection for both the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4 because that's how much I like those games. But you know, I got some really odd feelings about Kingdom Hearts 3 when that comes out next year. So yeah, we'll see. And with that, those are the questions that were sent to me for this week. I would like to thank everyone who sent in your questions. If you guys have any more questions you'd like me to answer in next week's episode, be sure to type them in the comments down below. But make sure you get them into me before next Wednesday, roughly around noon before I start filming this episode. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.